On the afternoon of the 10th of November 1940, Captain Pat Reed gazed up at the castle on the cliff and experienced the combination of admiration and anxiety its builders had intended. "We saw looming above us our future prison," he later wrote. "Beautiful, serene, majestic, and yet forbidding enough to make our hearts sink. A sight to make the bravest quail." Quailing was not in Pat Reed's nature. Indeed, he saw faint-heartedness of any sort as a moral failing, and refused to countenance it in himself or anyone else. An officer in the Royal Army Service Corps, he had been captured in May, one of thousands of soldiers unable to get away after the fall of France. Initially held in Laufen Castle in Bavaria, he had immediately supervised the digging of a tunnel from the basement to a small shed outside the prison walls, and then made a break for the Yugoslavian border with 5 other officers. They were on the run for 5 days before they were caught and sent to Colditz, a new camp for incorrigible prisoners, and therefore a place for which Reed was amply qualified. Born in India to an Irish father, at 29 years old, Reed was a natural contrarian and a born exhibitionist, a most dependable ally and, as an opponent, obstinate and insufferable. He had once climbed the rugby posts during an England-Ireland international at Twickenham to plant a bunch of shamrocks at the top. Described as a thick-set, wavy-haired fellow with a mischievous look in his eyes by one fellow inmate, Reed spoke and wrote exclusively in the argot of the boys' own paper, the British Boys magazine dedicated to heroic public school exploits. He displayed at all times a relentless, chirpy optimism. With a strong sense of his own place in the drama, Reed would become the first and most extensive chronicler of Colditz. He hated the place on sight and spent most of the rest of his life thinking and writing about it. The British officers, later known as the Laufen Six, were marched across the moat and then under a second stone archway, whose oaken doors closed ominously behind us with the clanging of heavy iron bars in true medieval fashion. In peacetime, Reed had been a civil engineer, and he cast a professional eye over the battlements. The ground fell away in a sheer precipice on 3 sides, below terraces festooned in barbed wire. As the day faded, the castle walls were lit by a blaze of searchlights. The nearest city was Leipzig, 23 miles to the northwest. The closest border to a country outside Nazi control was 400 miles away. Escape, Reed reflected, would be a formidable proposition. The little group was marched under another gated arch and into the inner courtyard. Only the sound of their boots ringing on the cobbles broke the silence. It was, wrote Reed, an unspeakably grisly place. Colditz Castle stands on a hilltop 150 feet above the Mulde River, a tributary of the Elbe in the east of what is now Germany. Before it became a German province in the 10th century, the Serbian Slavs who inhabited the area had called it Koldjeze, meaning dark forest. The first stone of what would become a mighty fortress was laid in about 1043, and over the next millennium it was repeatedly expanded and modified, destroyed and rebuilt by the great dynasties that tussled for power and prominence in the area. Fire, war, and pestilence changed the castle's shape over the centuries, but its purposes remained constant: to impress and oppress the ruler's subjects, demonstrate his might, frighten his enemies, and incarcerate his captives.